Good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Ricon. I am the Artistic Services Manager here at Opera America. And we are delighted tonight to be showcasing the music of our good friend Conrad Cummings. You have programs on your chairs with artist bios. Also on your chairs you have our 2011-2012 season brochure of Opera America's programming for artists. Where you can find information on this program, the Salon series, and also our Making Connections series for emerging artists. Also in this brochure you'll find information on the National Opera Center, which is a very exciting construction project that we are about to embark on. In September of 2012, we will be opening a 25,000 square foot multi-purpose facility on the 7th and 8th floor of this building, which will feature a audition recital hall, a recording studio, score and recording library, business center, and lots of other wonderful services for the opera community. So we look forward to holding programs like this and others in the Opera Center in less than 1 year. Before we get started, if everybody could take a moment to silence their cell phones and anything else that might make noise. After tonight's performance, we will have some light refreshments, and we hope you'll stay for a glass of wine and some continued conversation. Tonight's performance, I should say, is also being streamed live on the homepage of the Opera America website, so welcome to those of you who are joining us online. So without further delay, I will turn it over to our featured composer, Mr. Conrad Cummings. Thank you.
Starting with the first scene of the Golden Gate, the complete first scene. We're in San Francisco in 1980. We start out at the western edge of Golden Gate Park. Then we're in a bustling Chinese restaurant in the Mission District. Then we're in a sculptor's studio on the slopes of Telegraph Hill. Then we're at the beloved Cafe Trieste in North Beach. And then we have a drive through the nighttime city. And finally, we get back to Telegraph Hill, below the tower on a cold November night.
Successful in his work, though only 26. Respected, lonely. One evening as he walked across Golden Gate Park,
a misjudged toss of a red frisbee nearly brained him.
He thought, if I died, who'd be sad? Who'd weep, who'd gloat, who would be glad? Would anybody?
As it pained him, he turned from this dispiriting thing to ruminations less
electronic circuitry. This soothed his mind. He left irregular, moronic sentimentality behind.
But as flights of silhouetted birds move cawing across the pine-serrated sky, dragged from his cove, not knowing why, he feels an urgent riptide drawing him far out, where caught in the kelp of loneliness, he cries for help. Think of yourself a few years later, possessing, as the years go on, less prepossessing vital data. Love handles.
Thanks a lot. Says John.
Receding.
John is getting nervous.
All right, I wonder when they'll serve us.
hairline.
Funny taste, this tea.
He sips at it distractedly.
Lonely and lost, son's lover, too much to drink last night.
And here Jan pauses for a sip of beer.
Nursing the dregs of your hangover, blubbering into your raisin bread. Why not do something while you can?
Many seasons have sunk since their former love.
A standing truce shelters their friendship from all passion.
Agreed by both after a fashion.
After a fashion.
At midnight she cannot sleep.
Janet's arm hurts.
She is a sculptor.
When night comes,
She is a drummer in a band.
liquid sheep.
Well known. And feared throughout the city.
The striking sounds of liquid sheep.
Rouse distant suburbs from their sleep.
No family cushions John's solitude. Sinks a small boy, his mother dead, his father retired to his native England. Young, handsome, yuppie, 26, straight forward, cannot believe that he's
breakfast, sipping a Bacardi and Coke, Jan meditates upon her guilt. She forwards 7 tardy responses to the ad to John. John reads these with faint aspiration.
Good, curtain down, and weak applause. The 7th letter gives him pause.
Would you be John?
Correct. And you'd be Elizabeth, I suspect. She's lovely.
They shake hands.
John's heart gives a lurch.
And so, all right. And what he's wearing suggests he's just returned from church. Sound, practical, and active. Perhaps.
Jan comes in. Oh, Christ. Who's she? Liz Dorati,
Ex-Stanford Law School,
Cobb and Kearney,
much sought after,
by more than one,
well-heeled attorney,
a legal partner's wife,
spends her weekends at her folks',
like her brother Ed,
a vineyard,
where she reads
and soaks the sunlight of Sonoma County.
next for a drive, refreshing drama of changing streets and changeless day, and where the fog has cleared away, the exquisite bright panorama of street lights, starlight spread above, below, and overhead, above, below, and overhead, above, below, and overhead.
Why do you find it so surprising that you are happy? Are you sad so often? Tell me, John. I'm glad that we've indulged in advertising. But having met you, it would seem you feel all life so shaky to read. Don't be afraid, I'll find what you say and the night is cold.
It's late November.
They stand close,
Shivering side by side. Yet an ember of flame ignited by the ride is staring at the lights together. Defends them from inclement weather.
They stand,
Half shivering
have still
below.
Silicon Valley. And then from there to a string quartet concert at Stanford. This is the first half of the second symphony.
Spiders have weird habits.
I like them.
I don't.
I do.
Let's get something we both like. Rabbits.
Why rabbits, Dad?
They make great pets. Your mother used to like. Put on your coat now.
You talk like Mom is dead.
She's gone away.
Forever?
I just can't tell you so.
I've got tickets. Let's go down to Stanford.
The program.
Mozart, Schoenberg, Brahms.
Schoenberg's an ulcer generator. You know, darling, how disjointed. Those tumbled periods make me feel.
Oh, don't be stodgy, John.
Okay, it's a date, honey. This sandwiched Schoenberg is a pain. Thank God I brought my earplugs. Phil, that's him there, Berkeley, engineering, his son too. When we're finished hearing this horror, let's go say hello. Say what, Phil? The two of us are throwing a party on Friday night. early. We two veterans will find something crazy to amuse us, just like old times.
If Paul can spare me,
If I can stay with Chapamont.
Coffee after this.
it's late, and Paul has school at 8:30.
Phil, I'm real sorry about this thing with Claire.
Let's not speak of my disaster. What's the worst trauma you've been through?
This Schoenberg, it's obscenely boring.
The lights have dimmed. Now they're returning. Throats clear. Brahms A minor begins. The brisk allegro, then a yearning want of tile length of lyric spins its lovely glimmering thread at leisure, inveighingly from measure to measure, with a continuous tenderness, so deep it smooths out all distress. Till silence all sorrow, ravishing, beguiling, and on till silence comes. Paul whispers, that's the tune,
His eyes are closed, but all is silent.
So now we're skipping ahead. Phil does go to Liz and John's housewarming party, where he meets Liz's younger brother, Ed. And Ed is like totally immediately smitten by Phil. So they go home together, and after some agonizing soul searching, they have passionate sex together. And you're going to have to come back for the full production to see that scene. Now it's the next morning, and we're at John and Liz's flat. This is the beginning of Act 1 scene.
How beautiful it is when waking to find one's mother at one's side. The delicate soul light is breaking irresolutely through the wide bay windows of the falling on Liz's hair, and I'm reminded how last night she untied it, how it flowed between my hands. But now she lies asleep, unswiftly breathing. Her thoughts are not with me. Her dreams traverse the solitary streams of inward lands, yet her hair, breathing the pillow in a mesh of light, returns to me the fugitive night. 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 Returns to me the fugitive
going to skip ahead a lot. And despite, fortunately, what you might think just on the duet you just heard, things don't go well for Liz and John. And they don't go well for Ed and Phil either. And Jan feels generally ignored by everyone. The second act opens with a wedding, but we're the bride and groom. It turns out it's Liz and Phil. John's totally devastated, buries his pain in work and singles bars. That's where we pick up now, about halfway through the first scene of Act
2. In San Francisco's snowless winter, the gray weeks rinse themselves away.
Liz thinks of John, a painful splinter, drawn in more deeply day by day.
Throughout the season, John, tormented by moods in turn depressed and foul,
Soothes himself at the well-frequented singles bar, the winking owl.
And though Jan suffers for him, really why she does is hard to say. He's treated me less than ideally.
she can't divert an hour his way.
Still,
With startled recognition, John sees a face across the crowd.
through Michael Jackson's torn rendition, a beating shatteringly loud.
Quite a babe. That one gets a 7. Like that fellow, curly hair, turns on some chicks.
And I'm turned off by Hicks. This singles bar's the pits. I've got to get you out. I'm going to a cafe. You'll come as well.
What's on Jan's mind, John cannot tell. But revved for takeoff like a Boeing, she sweeps him up into the blue traffic, Trieste and T42.
So there they sit.
And John is smiling
get back together very passionately. And they spend easy days together in each other's company. Jan throws a party at her studio and invites Liz and Phil in hopes that she can mend the breach between them and John. But Jan never makes it to her own party. She's been killed in a car accident on the way. John is consumed with grief and remorse and sinks ever deeper into isolation. Weeks later, he reads a note from Liz and Phil asking him to be the godfather with their new baby. He can't deal with it, and his torment takes him out into the nighttime streets of San Francisco. This is where we'll pick up. It's about halfway through the last scene of the opera, and we'll go all the way to the end of the opera. Just so you have some idea of the staging. As he's walking at night, John imagines that he's hearing Jan's voice. And by daybreak, he finds himself at the bay, where he sees Liz, and Phil, and Ed, and the new baby, watching Paul fly a kite. The kite lands at John's feet, and Paul runs to him. But John just stands there, frozen in indecision. Paul returns to his family. The bay stretches out before everyone. The bridge arches overhead. Slowly, with great effort, John begins to walk toward his friends. It's the
It's dark, it's late November, the street lights glimmer through cooling air. The glimmer of light shines out across the water, the loveliest city in the world. The unforgiving realization of my own love.
I'm with you, John.
A taut emotion of guilt and panic seizing my heart.
Trust me, my friend.
Somehow I played a part in your death,
There is the phone.
and I'm ineligible to share your dying.
It isn't me you're obeying.
My despair demented brain.
Say, what are your own thoughts on me?
Day is dawning, the clear cool air presages winter rain.
The coaxing weather confettis the blue bay with sails.
The westward arc of ocean beyond Point Lobos gleams with light.
If I died, would be sad, who'd weep, be glad. Would anybody
once upon a time, say circa 1980, there lived a man. His name was John. One morning as he walked across,
Did you see? He went straight up.
Surfers displaying sinuous equestrianism steer their horse on the imploring rollers.
on shore the 8-year-old controllers of motley skateboards,
Swiftly swimming competitions
bright and trim,
past fishermen, coves, rocks, and grenades. While high above the golden gate, nesting the forward one
across the acres of white
Sit tight for just a minute and we'll have a little talk with Conrad and Steven. thank you again to the beautiful group of artists that you assembled. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the source material for this opera, which is based on Vikram Seth's novel in verse of the same name, The Golden Gate, correct?
That's correct.
So tell us where you first encountered this work.
1986, the year it was published. I picked the thing up in a bookstore, opened the first page, slapped my money down, and spent the rest of the day reading it from start to finish.
And being from San Francisco, is this required reading for everybody in San Francisco? Should it
Yes,
be?
yes, but not limited.
And what about it made you think it could become an opera?
Well, there's such music in the language. That's the thing. There's such music in the language. And the emotional states of the characters are so beautifully drawn. And there's such a flow of connections and disconnections and coming together and separating. And there's this fabulous through line of John, the handsome nudnik who has so much trouble just getting his basic relationship thing together. And who just hope when he makes those few steps at the very end of the opera might be on his way to do that.
The text of the novel is quite structured. Iambic tetrameter, is that?
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Da-da, 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 da-da.
And so how did that influence your composing process?
Isn't that pretty much what you heard?
It is, that's right.
Well, it's counterpoint. It means that there's a whole level of music in the words, which the music of the notes is in counterpoint to. So every time one of those lines finishes and there's a rhyme, and the rhymes are complex, and they happen in the middle of sentences, in the middle of ideas, and sometimes they're clear, and sometimes they're not. It's a whole other level of music that interacts and interweaves with the vocal and the music. We've got three things.
I remember when I read the book the first time, the simplest scene, setting, stanza, the storytelling of, and they heard the Beatles song. Because it's woven into this verse form and rhyme scheme that is unrelenting and and goes without exception, there's a marvel that you take in every turn of phrase because it's so woven in. You can see that's how he got it to fit there. So I remember just smiling to myself, reading page after page of the novel. It's so much fun.
And has Vikram heard any of the music?
Oh yeah, Vikram's been the best collaborator you could possibly wish for. He's heard it every step of the way. He's weighed in when necessary. He's saved me from a couple of wrong turns myself. And he's been very generous about allowing some very, very slight changes in the source text when there wasn't any other way to do it other than making a change.
Well, I have to say that I understood just about every word that was being sung up there, which I think says a lot about your ability to write for the voice and the fabulous talent of our singers as well. But where did you learn to write for the voice?
Steven Osgood's Composer in the Voice workshop,
Really?
where this piece was born. It started as a series of arias that I did with Steve's advice and help and guidance. And this was a long time after falling in love with the book, and a long time after trying to figure out how to do an opera on it and having no idea. And it just happened that year of working on those arias corresponded with the year that Elevator Repair Service did The Great Gatsby, and that was how I figured out how to do this opera. So the two things came together, and by the end of that year, we had a sketch for libretto, and I couldn't wish for a more wonderful collaborator. I'm not going to look at it because I'm embarrassed. I couldn't wish for a more wonderful collaborator than Steve. It's not just that he gets everything about writing for the voice, and it's not just that he is very pointed, but also very diplomatic in his way of leading you to doing the right thing. But he gets the use of language so clearly
So,
lucky enough to get to work with him.
Steven, you've obviously been integral to the development of this piece.
Yes.
How did it first come to your attention? How did it first come to your attention?
It was in that beginning of the Composers and Voice year that Conrad was involved with the program. Sometime in September or October, he said, "I've had this idea of a piece. Can we sit down and have coffee and talk about it?" And so we sat down and we had coffee and we talked about it. And it was like meeting somebody that I felt like I would eventually get to know really well, but was very blurry, and I didn't have my glasses on, and was just trying to figure out how to respond to the material. I think the narrative voice that is so present in the novel has been an intriguing thing to keep brainstorming and responding to ideas that Conrad had about how to reflect that on the stage. And that's just kept us all exploring a new land, because I've never seen a piece that works like this, where people can be in a scene and then tell you something that's happened to a scene, and you can hear something about a scene that's going on, and not only learn about the scene and the characters that are in it, but learn about the opinion that the teller has of what they're watching as you find that out. There's so much potential in that, in all of the storytelling devices, and it's just been fun to uncover them and find how they work. So just played a lot and bounced a lot of ideas around, and it's changed a lot since that very first time. A lot.
Yes, you recently had the first complete stage workshop last year. Is that
That's right, yeah. And that was a great experience, because that was with John Henry Davis, the most wonderful director and monitor you wish to ever work with. And that was for me, a very heartening proof of concept, because we knew it would work, but maybe the rest of the world wasn't so sure. And between Steve and John Henry and this amazing cast, there wasn't any question left. With 6 stools and a couple of slides in the back, the thing was as good as you could wish. Never any question about what was going on. Never any question about who you cared about.
And are there immediate plans for the future of Golden Gate?
Yeah, on Friday we have a reading and a rough recording session with the orchestra, half an hour of music. So that's going to be at Merkin, and we'll be producing a very rough CD of that, which will go around to be somewhere between a half dozen and a dozen opera companies that have expressed interest, and hoping that, one of them steps over the line.
That's wonderful. Well, I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience for Steven and Conrad, if there are any questions. Don't be shy. Yes?
Well, I have to know where some of Conrad's other interests outside opera lie, and I just wondered to what extent, since I know you've seen a lot of non-linear spectacles, let's put it this way, that this is, to me what's interesting is what you brought up, is that the character is the narrator. You've had, in more traditional operas, characters in the opera who narrate a situation about other people, but what you have here is the character as himself, herself, and the narrator. And to me, you're really juxtaposing elements that normally wouldn't be juxtaposed. And I know what else you've seen in your theater-going career, and I just wonder whether that's in your mind just because of your background, or it was this particular piece that got you into these structures.
I think it's just fortunate that this is Anna Kisselgoff, recently retired chief dance critic of the New York Times, and Anna has on quite a few occasions allowed me to tag along to dance performances.
Well, he's my music coach.
Maybe also. Yeah, seeing a lot of dance, I think, can have the effect of opening up the spectrum of storytelling techniques. There's so many different ways that stories and narratives and through lines happen within dance. That is a larger spectrum than happens normally within spoken theater or within opera or anything else. So thank you. I think it had a very good effect.
Yes?
Twice in what we heard, I heard a quote. I think it's a Brahms trio.
Quartet. A minor quartet, yeah.
Oh, it's a, okay. Now, could you tell us why that is in there?
It's in there because that's the piece that's being played at the concert that they're at.
Oh, I see.
So how can I have a scene? And the text of the book is very concrete about what music is getting played. So it's definitely Mozart, followed by Schoenberg, followed by an intermission, followed by the Brahms. So it was like a wonderful opening.
To this day, Michael Jackson as well.
Oh yes.
Question there in the blue.
Yeah, so my question about that was when you're orchestrating those four pieces, the Mozart, the Schoenberg, the Brahms, and the Michael Jackson, are you intending, particularly with the first three, and also curious what you're doing with Michael Jackson, to use the original orchestrations, or are you using your own orchestrations as a response?
Well, there's no, there wasn't any intention involved, but in every case so far, the original orchestration just didn't sound right. So it had to be something else. Because it's a transformation. You're using that as a startup, but it's already very, very much transformed, even in its notes and its rhythms. And what it has to do in terms of storytelling is completely different than what it has to do with quartet or something.
And you have another quote at the beginning of the opera from Eugene Onegin. And I wanted you to maybe talk about why you chose to use that quote.
Well, this was just too wonderful a way to begin, because The Golden Gate is a reflection on the great beloved Russian novel and verse by Pushkin, Eugene Onegin. They share the same verse form, and they roughly have the same story. It's just not 1817 in Russia, it's 1980 in Silicon Valley. But John is definitely that Onegin character who figures out too late what's most important to him. One hopes there's a little bit of hope. And actually both books leave you wondering what that next chapter of the character's life is going to be. So yeah, how can you not quote the Tchaikovsky Eugene Onegin opera?
And it's public domain.
Yes, and it's public.
But I mean, the Pushkin is written in the exact same meter and rhyme and scheme.
And same kind of bit and fluid fluidity.
Yes? No, I know that you have a great respect for music history and music traditions, but I also see you as an innovator. And typically it seems to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but typically it seems to me that innovators react against things. So I'm wondering what traditions of the operatic form and the opera world are you embracing, and what traditions, if any, are you rejecting or subverting in some way in this piece?
That's such a great question. Leave it to Corey Dargle, my absolute favorite singer, songwriter, performer, avant-gardist, to ask that question. I tend to think that what I do is a dialogue. Part of the pleasure of writing in the classical tradition now is that you are writing an ongoing dialogue of the past. And there are many terms that a dialogue can be in. Sometimes oppositional, sometimes cooperative, sometimes transformative, sometimes complementary. I like all of them.
Was there another question in the back? I thought I saw a hand.
I had one quick question. So, Suitable Boy was a big book. Was Golden Gate a big book?
Golden Gate is, considering that it's approximately 1,000 perfectly rhymed sonnets, it's big.
Okay. And so the question actually is, did you have to lose?
It's about that thick.
Okay.
Suitable Boy is about that thick.
Okay, so were there any heartbreaks for you on plot lines that you had to lose and
Oh, yeah.
over and over?
It's a novel. There's a whole collection of secondary characters that have to go away. Oh, you should have the pleasure of meeting Liz's mom. You won't, but it's really a shame.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I was curious about that too, because I know the book and I'm familiar with the Christian stanza poem, which is so unusual to be used in English. So do you break up sonnets? I assume you had to, or I don't know.
Oh yeah. Whenever I could, I use a whole one, but lots of it is slice and dice. And part of it was how to do that and keep the music of it fluid. Sometimes you're in a long stretch that fits together perfectly. Sometimes it's half a line and another half a line somewhere else. So that's all. That was part of the fun.
I mean, Conrad had a very strict rule for himself as he would work on this piece, and that was he wasn't going to make up any language. It was all going to be from the book. And so I could sit across the table and say, I think to get from here to here, there's something missing. And it's something like, I don't know, whatever. I think she has to say something to the effect of something of this to get him to say that. And Conrad would just kind of go into this look on his face, like, but that's not there. But that's not there. Wait a second. He'd like flip. Page 342. It's like, I think it's here somewhere. Yeah, I can use that. And so it's more than splice and dice. It's a big collage.
And this was not a self-imposed rule. This was the deal with Vikram. Very much the deal with Vikram. I mean, I loved working under that restraint. That's the one that I put on.
After your workshop in 2010, did you make any revisions to the work?
Sorry.
After the workshop, did you make any revisions?
Oh yeah. Oh boy, there have been revisions every step of the way. Yeah. I mean, that's the joy of it. I don't know whether there are going to be that many more. Now we're deep into orchestrating. Once you start orchestrating, you better not have too many revisions. It's just, it's too big.
So that was kind of the intent behind that workshop.
Yeah.
Before we go down that road, let's see if we're really confident that it's working.
And there were a few very small changes after that. There were quite a few changes in the month leading up to it, a few that in the 2 weeks leading up to it, crucial. But yeah, it's kind of there now.
Well, yes.
I know this is it's a big, all-consuming project for you, and that you've been working on it for for a number of years, and there's orchestration and everything. And could you talk a little bit about whether you've been working on other projects at all within that time period, and upcoming things, and how have they fit into all this, both practically in terms of your time management and artistically in terms of spillover of influence?
Well, do I share with him a trade secret? Ray Lustig, very distinguished and beloved. Well, okay. The secret is when you're investing 5 years writing 2 hours of music, you might want to take a little of that material and use it for a few other things. So yeah, there have been some other pieces which have made good use and transformed it in that direction and transformed it in that direction. And now there's another one that's going to take me away for 4 or 5 months. Maybe there'll be a disputing of that.
Please join me in thanking Conrad and Steven and all of our artists.